Hey, what's going on, Visionaries? Jason Osborne, JayOVision, back again with another video. And today we're talking lenses. We're talking about that 50mm 1.4, but we're not talking about Canons. We're talking about Sigmas right here. Yes, I copped one of these bad boys because it was time for me to upgrade my 50mm lens. I'm gonna give you my thoughts on it and if it's worth the cost coming up. All right, just wrapped up the session with Therese right here. Beautiful model, as you guys can see. We're gonna get into this review on this lens and how it did. I'm about to show you all the photos that we just took. But before we go, Therese, go ahead, shout yourself out. Let everybody know where they can find you.
Hi guys, y'all can find me at Therese Beauty.
And that's on Instagram? All right, Therese Beauty is on the bottom of the screen right now. So go ahead and follow this talented model out of Houston, Texas. That's how we do. And let's jump into these photos. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I did upgrade my 50mm 1.8 Canon to this Sigma 50mm 1.4. Now I still have the Canon 1.8, Nifty 50. It's what I'm shooting this video on right now, but it suffered a little damage during a wedding a couple weeks ago. It kind of fell apart and I put it back together and it works perfectly, but I don't trust it in the field anymore beyond maybe TFP or some collaborative shoots. I definitely don't trust it to do any professional work anymore, just simply because it fell apart. And even though I did put it back together and it's holding stable, yeah, I could pretty much lift the front off of it anytime I want, so I don't really think it's that reliable. First of all, this lens is heavy. And I know you probably, if you're watching this, have seen other reviews that have talked about how heavy the lens is. It is heavy compared to the 50mm 1.8 from Canon or even the 1.4 from Canon. This thing feels like a nice brick, but I don't necessarily mind that. I'm not gonna put that in the con category. I'm actually gonna put that in the pro category because it feels like a great lens. When you put this in your hand, you feel like you're about to take some amazing pictures. The body and the material of this lens is made out of thermal composite. That's what it says on the website. I'm not sure what a thermal composite means, but it feels like some parts are actually metal and some parts are actually a very nice, hard, expensive type of plastic. The glass is beautiful. When you put this thing on your camera, it looks like a beautiful lens. This has manual off focus, manual focus. That switch is very firm and I like that. It doesn't feel like I'm gonna actually accidentally switch to manual focus. It feels like, you have to be intent with switching. The focus ring also very smooth. I'm not mad at this focus ring. It's stiff enough to feel like you're actually gonna be able to make a precise movement, but not too stiff where it doesn't feel smooth or that you feel like you have to struggle against it. It's very nice. The mounting ring on this is metal, of course, with a little bit of a rubber insert. You probably have seen that tons of times before as well. There is no weather sealing, but I think they should include it with this lens at the price point that it is at. This lens comes in, I got it on sale for Amazon. Depending on the manufacturer make of the lens that you need it, whether you go for a Sony or a Nikon, it can vary in price. For Canons, it was on sale from $999 to $749. So I bought that at the sale price, brand new, $749 to get this lens. And let me tell you, it's a beast. It's an absolute beast. Forget it not having, weather sealing or IS or anything like that, or the weight. This lens has impressed me right out the box from the get-go. And this is my first time actually using a third-party lens. It's the only third-party lens that I actually have in my kit. All my other lenses are Canon, straight up name brand, and it compares very, very nicely to them. I've heard a lot of good things about Sigma, but I've also heard a lot of bad things about Sigma as far as autofocusing issues, it needing to be calibrated out of the box and not being ready to take good focus issues, or not locking on focus when you're intending out of the box. So I've heard all of those things, and it kind of made me a little apprehensive as far as buying a Sigma lens. But from what I can tell so far, this lens has operated perfectly right out the box, no calibration needed. The focus on this is pretty damn fast, all right? I am not mad at this at all. I was recording some of my other YouTube videos with this just to see how it looked on video. So far it looks great. I haven't really used it out in the field for YouTube videos, like for vlogging or anything like that, but as far as me sitting here, standing here, I'd say the last 2 videos that I did before this one that you're watching, I filmed on this 50mm 1.4 Sigma, so go ahead and check that out if you want to see what the video quality is looking like. What are my impressions about this lens? Well, this lens is sharp as hell, all right? Like absolutely sharp as hell. Now, I did a test, as you guys saw in the intro. I shot with this lens. I did a whole entire fashion shoot or portrait session with only this lens. I didn't switch with any other lenses. I only used this 50mm 1.4 lens. So we started off in the studio. We got some great shots inside, changed a couple outfits. Then we went outside and we used a little OCF to combat some of that light coming down. And basically I just used a little natural light, little OCF, and I just shot how I would shoot outdoors anyway. And I wanted to see the kind of results that I get through that. We're gonna go through some of these pictures now, and let me tell you, I was blown away with the quality and the sharpness of this lens, especially wide open at 1.4. None of my other lenses do that, wide open. You might get a nice sharp picture, but I've not seen the kind of sharpness that you'll get from this lens wide open at 1.4. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of those pictures now, and I'll give you a nice little breakdown of how I shot these. And they're all raws. I didn't edit any of these photos that you're about to see. These are straight out of camera, no adjustments whatsoever. Just a few photos so you can see the actual comparison of what this lens can do when you're in the studio, when you're outdoors, just in case you shoot both, or you might shoot one or the other, and you might want to see how it performs outdoors or in the studio. So, I'm gonna open these up on my computer now and we can check them out. All raw shots. I will say, just so you guys don't have to keep wondering what settings I'm shooting these at, this is all with the 50mm 1.4. This is all with a aperture of 3.5 and a shutter speed of 128 over a second, ISO 125. And this is for all the studio shots. That's what I use. Those are the settings that I use for the studio shots. I did not change the aperture. I did not change any of the other settings. So any of the studio shots that you see now, that's what it was, all right? 3.5 aperture, 1/125th of a second for the shutter speed. ISO was 125, all right? So as you can see though, like shit, I didn't edit these photos at all. This is raw, straight out of camera. And I mean, my lighting was on point, I have to say. But damn, this is a sharp ass picture. Look at this, boom. I mean, like you cannot beat that kind of sharpness right there. For the pictures to come out this good, straight out of camera, I mean, look at that. 3.5 is, it'll give you some great results, but these all came out really good. I mean, super sharp,
Look at that, like super sharp. Once again, 1/128th of a second, 3.5 aperture, ISO 125. But look at that. I mean, this lens, woo-wee! Sharp, man. Really sharp. Like, can't go wrong. We switched outfits. Look at that. Look how sharp that is. I mean, Jesus Christ. So as you can see, this lens performs very well in the studio. A lot of lenses, even lower end lenses, will perform a lot better in the studio because you have more light to work with, and you know, it allows you to really, you know, get the amount of exposure that you need to get the shot that you want. And you know, more light is going to add, you know, extra sharpness to your photo. She did a really good job though. This is also at 1.4, and this is what really like had my mouth like drop, like, you know, boom, like this is super sharp at 1.4, like wide open to get this kind of sharpness. I know that if I threw this in the Lightroom right now, add a little extra sharpening, a little contrast, give a little bit more depth, forget about it. Like, you don't get this kind of sharpness usually when you're shooting wide open at such a low aperture. .4 once again. So you guys are getting the hint, you know. I'm not sure. I think I shot this whole session wide open because I wanted to see how it was going to perform. I mean, .4 again. Because if it's performing this well wide open at 1.4, just imagine when it's stopped down a little bit. You can't beat that. Okay, so that one was at 3.5. Awesome model. I'm very happy with these images. So as you can see, these are all raw, straight out of camera. Like, you know, once you get past how sharp this lens is, look at the color. Look at like the contrast. I mean, woo, woo. This is definitely gonna go on the gram. Look at that.
So yeah, as you guys just saw, I mean, you cannot, you know, beat that kind of sharpness at, you know, 1.4. And if you stop down to 2.8, 3.5, 4.0, 5.6, I mean, it just becomes super sharp. Might even cut your eyeball just by looking at the image. That's how sharp it is. This lens is an absolute beast. The proof is in the pudding. If you don't believe me, go ahead and rent one yourself and take some pictures of it, some pictures with it. I'm like, I can't even get my words out. Like, that's how good it is. So yeah, definitely worth the price. You know, and for the price, I would expect it, but I think you're getting a little bit more bang for your buck at the price point that it's at, especially if you're buying it for Canon. I mean, a $750 lens, 1.4. I mean, I know you're expecting great results, but this is spot on. So what are the cons of this lens? Not every lens is perfect. You know, I haven't come across one perfect lens that has no cons, and this has some, and I'm gonna go over those now. The first con I would say is, and I did read about this before purchasing this lens, so I definitely set out to test the specific con or a flaw of this lens, and that is with strong backlighting. There was a focus issue when I shot the model outdoors with the sun backlighting her, and the sun was in the eye of the glass, meaning the sun was like right there hitting it directly. It's funny because it wouldn't hunt. It would lock on. I would hear the beep. It would tell me, hey, I'm locked on. I got focus for you. Go ahead and take your shot. You're good. But then when I would look back on the viewfinder, she was totally out of focus. And I tried it numerous times. You know, bring the camera up, lock in on her face, press the focus. I hear the little doo-doo. I take the picture, I look down, and she'll be blurry. Now, funny is that when I would switch to live view mode and I would take the same exact picture, the picture would be sharp as hell. So I'm not sure if that's a flaw between the Canon and Sigma compatibility or what that's all about. I do know that when I just readjusted myself a little bit and I took some of that sun out of the lens like face, it focused fine and I got sharp pictures, and it didn't bother me because, I mean, I was still able to get a great shot with a little flare of sun coming into the corner instead of that huge flare of sun facing directly into the lens face. In the real world situations, when I was shooting events with it, when I was shooting a client job with it, when money was on the line, this performed flawlessly, and that's what I care about at this point in my career. Another con is that it doesn't have weather sealing. Now, I understand it's not a L series lens, but it's almost L series price, all right? $750 on sale is not cheap by any means, and when you get it full price, you're paying almost $1,000. I would expect a lens like this to have some sort of weather sealing around the back area. You know, it's always good to have weather sealing on your gear. You don't have to worry about any kind of condensation or little drips of water getting in during wet or sandy or dirt or anything like that. That little rubber seal keeps so much out of your camera body, and it's so important. So I was expecting and hoping that, you know, later on down the line, maybe they do add some weather sealing to this lens. It's a slight small con. A lot of my other lenses don't have weather sealing either, but they are also not as expensive as this one. So, you know, I just have to take a little minus off of that. And the last con that I have about this lens is the bokeh quality. Now, don't get me wrong, when you're shooting wide open at 1.4, you're still getting that pop, all right? You will definitely still get that bokeh, but I feel like it's not as bokeh-licious as it should be, or as you would want it to be at 1.4. At 1.8, I get a lot of nice bokeh with the 50mm 1.8 from Canon. On the 1.4 from Sigma, I got some decent bokeh, you know, I got some nice bokeh, but I could still clearly see some details in the background that I thought should have been blurred out like crazy. And shooting from a 1.8 to a 1.4, that's something that I would notice immediately. So when I look back at some of these portraits that I took outside, and I see some of the background still kind of clearly visible, it makes me kind of wish there's a little bit more bokeh in that background. Now I know I can add a little bit more blur to it in post and all that stuff, but why do I want to have to do that? I don't want to have to do that. You know, I want to be able to just take a shot and have it be super bokeh out. Now, don't get me wrong, different distances will affect how much bokeh is in your shot, so I'm sure if I was a little bit closer to my subject and I shot at 1.4, they would, you know, there would be a lot more bokeh in the shot. But at the same time, I feel that this lens should offer a little bit more bokeh for the price point and for the aperture that it's open to. Maybe that's how they keep it so sharp at 1.4. I'm not sure, but you know, I was a little disappointed on the bokeh factor as well, but not disappointed enough to not want to use the lens, or to use it at a wide open aperture, because it's still good enough. Definitely consider the Sigma 50mm 1.4. I am beyond happy with this purchase. I am not upset about any of the flaws or cons that I mentioned in this review, because honestly, they have not affected me at all when it really counted. So if you like this video today and you learned something about this lens and you're thinking about getting one yourself, go ahead, give me a thumbs up, smash that like button, push it, punch it, click it, do whatever you want to do. I need all the likes I can get, so please go ahead and hit that like button for me. If you have any questions or want me to review a different type of lens, I'll go ahead and rent one for you. Leave it in the comment section below. If you have any questions about this Sigma, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. I love conversing with all of you viewers and subscribers and visionaries. So go ahead, leave me a comment so we can get a discussion started. Hit that subscription button. Make sure that you come back week after week to watch these videos, especially if you're a photographer. Don't forget to hit that notification bell too, because I drop my videos once a week. Sometimes it's on Mondays, sometimes on Wednesdays. You just never know, but it will be coming. So you definitely want to be notified first of when that video drops. This is Jason Osborne, JayOVision, and I will see you guys on the next video. I'll talk to you later. Peace.